Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott Reads Comics. This is, in fact, our 99th episode, and I wanted to do something special for the 100th episode. And the issue that I wanted to cover in that episode was the famous Avengers Annual number 10, which introduces Rogue to the Marvel Universe, among other things. Features incredible Michael Golden artwork, a fantastic Chris Claremont script and plot, and more importantly, the correction of one of the greatest wrongs ever done to a character in modern comics history. But I can't cover this issue in our historic 100th episode without first covering its antecedent story, which is Avengers 200. And I generally cover stories, comics, art that I like on this show. This show doesn't exist for me to get on and bash the efforts of these incredibly talented creators. But I have to make an exception in this case, and that's why this 99th episode is going to be kind of a departure from what you've seen in the previous 98 episodes. I'm not going to laud this book. This is a terrible book. It's a terrible story. It has some great artwork. It has some cool characterizations of the Avengers, but also some terrible ones. And it's not really something that's avoidable. And it's something to this day that the principals deny that they had a part in, even though they're clearly listed in the credits. So it is a story that is wrapped in controversy. And even as a kid, when I read this, and I didn't read it when it came out, but I read it in 1982 when I bought it from a back issue bin at Ides Comics on the north side of Pittsburgh at the time. And I read this story and I knew something was wrong with it. It was just strange. And, you know, with time and experience, you realize, oh, this is incredibly wrong. And here's why. And so we're gonna get into that a little bit. I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but I'm gonna read the most important parts, the most salient parts, and I'm gonna do it not using my newsprint version, which I prefer, simply because this version, as you can see, has some unfortunate corruptions in the artwork. So I want the full experience that's clear for you to see, and so I'm going to use my Marvel Masterworks. Ms. Marvel, it's volume 234, Marvel Masterworks, featuring Ms. Marvel. It covers Ms. Marvel numbers 15 to 23, Marvel Superheroes 10 and 11, Avengers 200 and annual number 10. And more importantly, it also has some setup elements from issues, I think, 197 and 198. So we're going to start with those. And we're going to start reading on this page. The Avengers, number 197, July 1980. I should add that Avengers 200 came out in October 1980, according to the Indicia. And Avengers Annual 10, which I'm going to talk about in our 100th episode, came out a little under a year later on August 4th, 1981. But this is an excerpt from Avengers 197. It's a little bit of setup. So Wanda is away from the Avengers because she's having kind of a crisis about whether she wants to try to be a mother or not, even though she's married to the Vision, and technically they can't have children because he's an android. And Ms. Marvel goes to kind of console her and tell her to come back to the Avengers and work things out there. You're a vital person, Wanda. One that half the women in the world would probably kill to be. Surely you find that more fulfilling than any silly stereotype of having a baby. Ms. Marvel, I don't entirely agree with your reasoning, but I'm sure you'll be pleased to know that I do agree with your conclusions. So she goes on to say that she has resolved to come back to the Avengers and live her life with the Vision childless and embrace that reality. Meanwhile, Ms. Marvel starts to feel a little weak. I'll help you back, but that's strange. Suddenly I feel sick, dizzy, almost as if I were going to. Oh, what? Ms. Marvel? Ms. Marvel? So the fallen heroine doesn't move, but Wanda and Frank does, sprinting to the nearby cottage to phone for paramedics. While our scene shifts even more quickly to an increasingly familiar Manhattan mansion. So that's part of another story that's not related to this excerpt. So here we go back to Wanda and Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel in the hospital. Doctor, oh doctor, I'm Wanda Frank, the one who brought Ms. Marvel in. Is she all right? I believe so, Miss Frank, though I'd like to run a few more tests. May I see her? Oh, definitely. She could use the moral support for some reason. She seems to be taking the news of her condition rather badly. Condition? Yes, though I don't see why she should be upset. After all, nausea and fainting are quite common symptoms for someone who is 3 months pregnant. So, fainting really isn't a common symptom for someone who's 3 months pregnant. Nausea certainly is. But anyway, so we see here the big reveal. Carol Danvers is somehow pregnant. So now we have an excerpt from Avengers 198. This is with some excellent George Perez artwork, I should add. This was Carmine Infantino here. But I can't be pregnant. I tell you, I just can't be. But Ms. Marvel, the tests show... I know what the tests show. They showed me to be 3 months pregnant last night and 6 months pregnant this morning, when I shouldn't even be pregnant at all. There couldn't be. Blast it, Wanda, there isn't a father. Please, Ms. Marvel, just try to stay calm. When we get back to New York, we'll get the best specialists in the world on your case. And I promise you, Ms. Marvel. And here, Carol gets sick of her calling her Ms. Marvel and just says, look, I'm Carol Danvers. Carol Danvers is scared. Don't worry, Carol. You're an Avenger, and that makes you a very special person with very special friends. Friends who'll stand by you, no matter what. Thank you, Wanda. That helps a lot. And we have a great, taking up this bit of white space here, they put in the great corner piece with Dave Cockrum artwork in her new costume, which is so cool. Cockrum loved the sash, man. It's really neat. Okay, so here's an excerpt from Avengers 199. The Avengers get back and they see Carol Danvers, Ms. Marvel, without her mask. And I just find it difficult to believe. It's strange credulity that Cap would not know that this was Carol Danvers just for the fact that she wore that costume in a domino mask. But whatever. One very pregnant woman, mind telling us who you are, miss? She's no miss, Captain. She's a Ms. Wanda, you're back. Yes, we arrived back while you were out. You already know Dr. Donald Blake, and this is Carol Danvers, who until now we all knew only as Ms. Marvel. Carol has a slight problem. She's approximately 7 months pregnant. She's what? But we saw her only days ago, and she wasn't. We don't understand either. 2 days ago, she wasn't pregnant. Now she's nearly full term. I've asked Dr. Blake to perform further tests here. That is, if anyone else approves. Approve? I think it's great. Gosh, a real baby. Hey, if the kid needs a teddy bear, I'm available. Congratulations, Carol. I guess welcome home. Good. Now I think Carol had better get some rest. She's had a long day. Thank you, Dr. Blake. Thank you all. So already we can see a pattern developing here. The Avengers are not taking this seriously at all. They're just barely embracing the fact that she's pregnant and how wonderful it's going to be. But the idea of how she got pregnant seems to become secondary almost immediately. Evening comes to Avengers Mansion and tensions begin to ebb, melting like the marshmallows in the hot cocoa served by the Avengers' loyal butler, Jarvis. Jan, you had a little talk with Wanda before she and the Viz sacked off. Is she okay? She seems to be, Clint. I think the Avengers are going to be fine between her and the Vision. She was understandably worried about Ms. Marvel. Not only is Carol's condition unnatural and unnerving, but she insists that there's no father, though I don't see how. Please, you've got to come quickly. This is Don Blake here. Ms. Marvel's gone into labor, and it's not like any kind of labor I've ever seen. I don't know if I can handle it, frankly. I don't know if anything human can. A special size 200th anniversary issue featuring the senses-shattering conclusion. Senses-shattering is certainly a euphemistic way to put it. So here we are, Avengers 200, special double-sized anniversary issue, went a Toys R Us shopping spree. So we have a great cover from Perez and Austin here, which features all the principals in the story. And then, very important, here's our credits. Shooter, Perez, Layton, and Michelini, plot. David Michelini, writer. George Perez and Dan Green, art. John Costanza, letters. Ben Sean, colors. Jim Salacrip, editor. Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. So, we have 4 principals listed as plotters. George Perez, Bob Layton, David Michelini, and Jim Shooter. So, in subsequent interviews, all 4 of these individuals have denied responsibility for the core of this story. So, who is truly responsible? Well, if they're all denying responsibility for the core of the story, they all definitely see something wrong with it now in retrospect. But let's move on. So Ms. Marble's in labor, and there we see Simon Williams and the Beast pacing around, already setting up the idea of the expectant father pacing around in the room waiting for the woman to deliver the baby, which is a common Hollywood trope. So we're moving along here. No, Ms. Marble says, "No, doctor, I feel no pain. So do what you must and please hurry. I just want this to be over." Such an important line there. I mean, there's almost an acknowledgement that this by the writers that this is a terrible situation, but then what unfolds is anything but. But I'm not pushing, doctor. I'm not pushing at all. You're not. But how could, I mean, that's not impossible. We get the great headshots here by Perez. "It's a boy." And Beast says, "All right, how wonderful. Can we come in now?" So they've got the baby in this special sealed crib here, to keep it free of germs. "Yeah, and frisky too. I bet he'll be quarterbacking for the Jets before he's 16. The Beast, I've always said, is my favorite Avenger. He's insufferable in this issue, just insufferable. His ignorance of the violation to Carol Danvers and Ms. Marvel is insufferable. "That's right, Captain. The infant seems normal enough. Nevertheless, I want you to check him out thoroughly. Obviously, there's something about that child that just isn't natural." So Jocasta and Vision discuss, how they can never have children because they're artificial beings. There's a little bit of pathos there. "Hey, where's the new mommy?" the Wasp says. "I had Wonder Man take her to her room. I thought she should rest." "Good idea. I'll just go see that she's tucked in okay." The Wasp's dialogue is also insufferable in this issue. "I think the rest of you had best leave too, Iron Man. Yellow Jacket and I have some tests to run, and I think the results may prove rather intriguing." "Soon. Mind if I join the procession, Wendy?" "Not at all, Jan. I just wanted to congratulate the proud parent. It's really a beautiful baby, Carol. You're so lucky to..." "Lucky? Wasp, think about what you just said. I've been used. That isn't my baby. I don't even know who the father is. So if you want to help me, please, just leave me alone." So this whole situation has caused Vision and Scarlet Witch to reflect on their relationship and the fact that they're currently a childless couple. Hawkeye and the Beast. This is one of the few enjoyable moments in the story. They play around the pool, and Beast uses his knowledge of advanced mathematics to game Hawkeye, which is pretty great. "Well, I've been sharked. Heh. They don't call me the Peter Benchley of 42nd Street for nothing, pal." So let's see here. Me, I've got to check on how Ms. Marvel's kid is doing. And seconds after a VidCom channel has been activated. He what? You heard correctly, Beast. In the last hour, the infant has grown to the size and maturity of a child 2 years old. And what are his first words? Change. Okay, so now in New York, people start seeing these strange time anomalies manifest, and that's going to accelerate as the story goes on. Meanwhile, Simon Williams, Wonder Man, checks in on Carol. Hey, do you really think you should be up and around so soon? No problem, Simon. I feel fine, and Dr. Blake has given me a clean bill of health. Terrific. So how about coming down to take a look at your son? He's really an extraordinary little... No, he's not my son. I don't want to have anything to do with that thing. Come on, Carol. My eyes may look strange, but they see perfectly well. And right now, they can see that you're frightened, just plain old run-of-the-mill scared. And you've every right to be. We don't know what's happened to you any more than you do, but ignoring it won't help anything, though maybe facing up to it will. What do you say? The blonde heroine says nothing as she mentally balances Simon Williams' words. And here we have some more insufferable Beast characterization in this issue as he brings a bunch of athletic equipment to the now beyond toddler child version of the baby. Hi, Junior. Just look at all the nifty play toys I got for you. Aren't they nice? Yes, the assortment does seem rather complete, but I really prefer a laser torch and whatever electronic components you could spare. You're talking? I assume colloquial English is satisfactory. So Cap tries to get to the bottom of what's going on. Child says, and by the way, my name isn't Boy, it's Marcus. All right, Marcus, but what you're going to answer some questions first. Very well. I shan't be agile enough to operate some of the mechanisms I need for another 20 minutes or so anyway. What would you like to know? For starters, where did you come from? My mother. Yes, we know that. But how were you conceived? By my father. Well, of course, blasted, but who is your father? I am. That's our first clue, folks. Things are getting weird. Now, see here, young man. Easy, Cap. It's obvious that he's not going to give us anything he doesn't want to. Why not let him have the materials? Let him tinker. Maybe we'll get some answers then. Cap doesn't like it. Excellent, gentlemen. I assure you, you'll not be sorry. So here we have more of the time anomalies manifesting. We do get to see Perez draw some pretty great stuff in this issue, including some cool dinosaurs. Always fun. Yet again, meanwhile, I guess Miss Marvel isn't going to show. Tell me, Hank, you're an old married man. How did you ever come to understand women? I didn't. What? But you and Jan. Simon, I love Jan and I accept her for what she is. But to be honest, the day someone comes out with a book on what makes women tick, I'll be the first in line with my checkbook. Okay, a little bit of a knuckle dragging there. Meanwhile, Don Blake is watching Marcus work. This is incredible. Not only has Marcus' physical stature reached that of a 12-year-old, but his intellectual capacity now surpasses anything short of an Einstein. I'm starting to wonder if this puzzle really requires the talents of Dr. Donald Blake or the mighty Thor. So the Avengers are noticing a ramp up in calls about what's going on. Meanwhile, the Vision is studying Marcus' condition. I've run micro radio analysis on the boy called Marcus, and preliminary findings point to a subtle energy aura that is growing around the child as the child grows. Further, its flow is an outward one, indicating that its source is within Marcus and could well be the reason for his astonishing growth rate. You're very resourceful, Vision. Perhaps I could help too. And then the Wasp shows up here, and Jocasta feels a pang of jealousy as she leaves. Or that's not the Wasp, sorry. The Scarlet Witch shows up, and Jocasta feels a pang of jealousy because she has a connection to Vision because they're both artificial beings. But she ain't married to him. So let's move on. While half a mansion away, in the main hall, Jan, why, Ms. Marvel, are you sure you're well enough to? I'm fine, Jan, physically. But in my heart, I feel like a fool. I'm so sorry I snapped at you like I did. It's just that with what I've been through lately, forget it, Carol. If it had happened to me, I'd be in a rubber room by now. Come on, let's go see your kid. Dr. Blake, Ms. Marvel would like to see Marcus. Is it okay? I don't see why not, if she's up to it. But even Carol Danvers herself doesn't know that, and so she steels herself, bracing for a resurgence of the loathing and humiliation she had felt before, waiting for the swell of fear and anger she knows will follow, but doesn't. For as she steps forward to face the slender young man who awaits her, she feels instead an odd sense of calm, along with an unexplainable and undeniable attraction. Hello, Mother. How many levels is this wrong on? I can't really say. 2, 3, 4. It gets weirder, folks. Let's move on. Let me point out first that he's now a grown man. He's a grown man. Get him a pair of pants. Get him a shirt. Maybe an I Love New York t-shirt. I don't know. Something. I know you, but how? I mean, you're my... Please, Carol, don't be upset. Everything will be fine once the flux is negated. I don't understand any of this, Marcus. But most of all, I don't understand what I feel about you. I know, and I'm sorry, but I promise all will be explained after I've finished. But suddenly, so he is the source of the flux, and so all of these time anomalies are descending on the mansion, attacking, because perhaps they innately sense that he can stop them from existing by completing his device. So we get to see a pretty great full page scene here of Avengers Mansion under assault from all sorts of beings and forces from out of time. And you get to see Iron Man punch a dinosaur, which is pretty cool. Knights show up, also really cool. Cool to see the Scarlet Witch wielding her powers. Perez is a fantastic artist. Really good stuff here. Dan Green is a complimentary inker to him, I think. Does a credible job. Again, Iron Man punching dinosaurs. Beast and Cap taking on some native warriors. Looks like Iroquois. I don't care what Cap says. Marcus and his freaky machine are behind this. And if no one else is going to do anything about it, then I will, Hawkeye declares as he goes away from the fight. Oh my gosh, it sounds like the whole house is coming down. Marcus, we've got to get out of here before... No, I must finish this machine. Don't you understand? I must. So against Cap's orders, Wonder Man goes out to intercede more directly. Never mind, Wasp. I'll stay with Marcus. You two had better check the rest of the mansion for damages. So they go off too. So she's pretty much alone with Marcus once she puts Don Blake in this closet. She doesn't know that Donald Blake is actually Thor, so while in the closet he transforms and also goes outside, presumably. We get some more pretty cool fight scenes here. We see Thor doing his thing, creating a vortex to suck most of the outside assailants into it and presumably away somewhere. We see some Jarvis action here. Wasp and Yellow Jacket waylaying this musketeer and then Jarvis finishing him off. Scarlet Witch bailed out by Yocasta. Hawkeye mowing through some adversaries as he gets to the crux of the story here. But I can't leave you. I don't know why. Please. You must leave. I have to activate the machine. But I just can't. In that case, I'm afraid I have little choice. Forgive me, Mother. Forgive me, my love. Okay, yeah. This is weird. I knew it. I knew you weren't kosher, you little scum. I may not have been in time to save Ms. Marvel, but by all that's holy, I'll see that you and your blasted machine never hurt anyone else. So Hawkeye uses a blast arrow and destroys the machine that Marcus has painstakingly created. Then you can see a tier, really good sequence of panels here, art-wise by Perez and Green. Okay, Curly Top, put the lady down gently. Yes, I shall. That had been my intention all along. So now he's going to provoke Hawkeye, threatens to kill him, but Thor separates them. Stay thy hand, youth, lest the son of Odin stay it for thee. Thor, thy visage hath stirred memories, boy, and I wouldst know their source. From whence did they come and why? I'll tell you nothing. You'll have to kill me first before I kill all of you. No, Marcus, you'll kill no one. What? Mother, stay out of this. I don't understand you, but I do know you somehow, and I sense that you'd no more take a life gratuitously than an Avenger would. And he says she's right. In that case, Marcus, you can start with me. So she says, you'll have to kill me first, and he refuses. And here we get a big reveal. I only wanted them to kill me. You what? I couldn't bear the thought of going back, of living the life, of living like I have ever since my father left, ever since the last days of Immortus. So Marcus is the son of Immortus. And he tells a story of how Immortus plucked this woman who looks like Ms. Marvel, but don't be confused, this is not Ms. Marvel. He plucked this random woman, looks like she escaped the Titanic or something, back into his reality so that he could use his technology and his machines to woo her into loving him, and that they would have a child so that he could know he could forestall his loneliness by knowing the joy of fatherhood. So he has Marcus, but then he loses his wife because of a time anomaly. She goes back to her own time. And then once Immortus goes away, in an unrelated story, Marcus is left alone. But then I hit upon a plan. Since I had been born into Limbo, why couldn't I be born onto Earth? And by accelerating both the birth and maturity process, perhaps I could negate the time flux distortion before it became irreversible. I knew that an exceptionally strong woman would be required for such an undertaking. And through numerous time scans, I determined that Ms. Marvel, the powerful combination of Kree and human strengths, would be the perfect vessel. Thus, I plucked you from the flying craft you were operating over what you call New Jersey. That was in Avengers 197. And brought you to Limbo. And while I knew Immortus' devices could bend your will to mine, I didn't want you that way. So I set about winning you. To aid my purpose, I brought others in from Earth's time continuum. I had Shakespeare write you a sonnet, and Beethoven performed an original prelude in your honor, while Marie Antoinette herself clothed you in the finest satins and silks. Finally, after relative weeks of such efforts, and admittedly, with a subtle boost from Immortus' machines, you became mine. What a sleazebag. And in the pocket of change, we became one. Through the electronic wonders at my command, and with my own inherited powers, I was able to implant my essence within you, causing a condition that resembled pregnancy. And then, even as my corporeal form faded into oblivion, my father's preset mechanisms masked your recent memories and transported you back to your flying craft a mere second after you had left it. Once reborn, I knew that as my artificially accelerated growth progressed, the limbo effect would become stronger, but I had hoped to build a machine to negate the effect before I reached full maturity, and the effect became permanent. Then I could have lived among you, using my knowledge of time and history to better the human race. But when my machine was destroyed, I knew there was no time to build another before the limbo effect became fixed. Therefore, since I cannot and will not cause the destruction of a world just to realize a dream, my options became either return to limbo, living in solemn solitary hell unto infinity, or else goad you Avengers into killing me, and thus sparing me. Now I have no options. Geez, Marcus, you should have told us. And what then? Would you have trusted the son of one of your oldest enemies? Well, no matter. I'll go. Perhaps I was destined to be alone. No, Marcus, you won't be alone. Carol, what do you mean? I mean that while I still don't know what I felt for you in limbo, some of that feeling still lingers. And that, combined with the fact that by some bizarre logic you are my child, makes me feel closer to you than I felt to anyone in a long time. And I think that just might be a relationship worth saving, worth giving a chance. So I'm returning to limbo with you. What? Ms. Marvel, are you sure you know what you're doing? Not entirely, Iron Man, but I've been denying my feelings for quite a while. Maybe it's time I started following them. Say goodbye to the others for me, will you? And Thor offers to take them back, and he whisks them away. And once he whisks them away, all of the limbo effects on Earth vanish. And we have this final moment here at the end. I still can't help it, Shellhead. I just feel rotten. If I hadn't destroyed Marcus's machine, maybe things would have happened the same way, Hawkeye. There's no way of knowing. We've just got to believe that everything worked out for the best. Yeah, I guess you're right. That's all we can do. And hope that Ms. Marvel lives happily ever after. Fini. So that's Avengers 200. That's our setup for Avengers Annual 10, which would be published about 10 months after this story. And it would be nice, and maybe I will do this before I record the episode for Avengers Annual 10, to look at some of the letter page reaction in the time. So that would probably be around Avengers 204 or 205 if they published a consistent letters page in those issues. I'll check. I'll do a bit of checking and see to get fan reaction to this bizarre and frankly wrong-headed story. But that has been Avengers Annual, or Avengers 200, leading up to my 100th episode, which will be Avengers Annual number 10. Which is going to be a bit of a reclamation project by Chris Claremont, Michael Golden, and Armando Gil. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe, tell your friends, and I'll bring you more soon on Scott Reads Comics. Thanks for watching.